Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Point of View. This is the podcast that brings in different point of views on topics that's related to the local gaming and esports industry. My name is Wenceslas, and together with me is your co-host Kenneth.
Hey everyone, Kenneth here. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, so the purpose of this podcast really is to bring on people and have their point of view shared about certain topics using their journey and their experiences. And I hope you guys, the viewers, would have a lot to gain from this podcast. This is a money podcast that will happen every last Friday of the month. And I'm really excited for the very first episode. So the first topic will be passion and practicality. So what is passion and is it practical? Today on our show, we have our SEA Games silver medalist, Thomas, and also we have Rachel, who is in the public relations in part of esports industry. So they have very interesting backgrounds, and I believe that through their stories and through their opinions, you guys would learn a lot more about this topic about passion and practicality. So without further ado, let's bring them on stream.
Before we move on, I think we have fans already once. You see this chat. RTTW and Ben. I noticed
wow.
y'all, don't worry. Senpai noticed.
Thanks guys for joining this stream. Really appreciate it.
Alright, let's bring on our two guests, man.
Let's bring on our two guests. Hi, good evening, Thomas and Rachel.
Hello.
welcome to the show.
Yes, it is a good evening.
Are you guys very excited for our first podcast? I'm really excited to have you guys on to discuss about this topic. So maybe we can start off by telling the viewers more about you guys. I believe some of them might have seen you guys for the first time and don't really know your background. So maybe Thomas, you want to start? Tell us more about how you got in esports and your background.
So, my name is Thomas Kopankiewicz. For those who don't know, I go by the handle Blisk, and more commonly known as the person who recently won the silver medal at SEA Games for playing the game StarCraft 2, this thing right here. And also more commonly probably known as the person from Wow Banana. It's a local YouTube channel, and I content create there, and I write scripts, and that's my full-time job. Yeah.
That's so cool. What about you, Rachel? Maybe tell us more about...
Yeah, hi. Thanks for having me on the show, the first episode of the show. I'm Rachel. I work in public relations and communications in esports. So I talk to media, I talk to corporate clients about our teams and what they can do, basically.
Cool. Maybe you want to tell us also, like, before esports, what were you doing?
Before esports, I was actually an international flight attendant. So I was spending most of my time out of Singapore, places like London, Manchester, my favorite city in England, Korea, Japan, Istanbul. So I've been to a couple of places, seen a lot.
Just a couple. Just a couple of places.
In talking about
the hotel
traveling,
rooms all over the world, surprisingly quite similar. So
I mean, talk about traveling. I believe that Thomas, you also traveled quite a bit because of your tournaments and stuff like that. Maybe you want to talk more about your journey when you were esports.
Right. I guess because just now you asked, right, how I first started. So I think my friend introduced me to the game first way long ago when StarCraft 2 first came out, and then it's just a whole passion towards learning the game, understanding the game. I'm not a talented gamer in any sense, so I'm the guy who like find interest and then I grind very, very, very hard at it. So I started out in the worst league, like bronze. That's like basically the lowest tier you can go. And I fight, like practice and study all the way up until I reached where
Is this
I
like
was.
humble bragging? Because
Yes, yeah.
you're the silver medalist, but I'm not a good gamer.
I think it's more like if you put in the hard work, you can get to where you want to be. You don't need super good talent to be good at the game. You just need to understand and know how to practice and all the fundamentals that go behind it. Yeah. And then I think during poly days, which is where I actually met Wenceslas, we used to be classmates.
Yeah.
That was when I first went to my first tournament. It was for Tokyo Game Show, and then I represented Singapore there. And then from then on, the whole thing just started. Like, I started understanding what I wanted to do in life wasn't law, but I wanted to do like more communication based stuff, and then I transferred course, and then I spent a lot more time practicing gaming, and then a lot of ups and downs. And there was a whole period where like I joined a foreign team, and because of the foreign team, I was able to go to a lot more overseas competitions like DreamHacks in Sweden, in Spain. I go a lot of regional tournaments in Australia as well. So yeah, tons of traveling too. And I mean, as a kind of like teenager, when that's your part-time job, playing games, and at the same time you get to travel, I think it's super cool to anyone out there. So
Yeah, I think to the viewers, I met Thomas in poly, and it was damn cool, right? Because this is the first time I met a professional gamer. And when I was in class, right, suddenly he and this other guy called Jason, both of them had their own keyboards around whenever they go. I'm like, who carry keyboards around? But back then I was like that, right? I'm like, why will you carry your own keyboard? You go anywhere, the PC already got keyboard for you. Why you have your own keyboard? Then you learn like, oh, they need it for their performance and stuff like that. And then after that, Thomas went on to do several other things. He has his own channel and stuff like that, and now he's doing content creation. So I believe that his story is gonna be his experiences and his perspective on passion versus practicality would be very beneficial to a lot of you youths who are finding out your passion and you guys don't know, what you want to do, and there's just like no clarity, and maybe you like doing this, but is it practical? And that's where I want to talk more about Rachel also, because for Rachel, you took a pay cut from a stable job to go into esports, and that is something that I believe that she can share later on when we talk about passion, because this is one aspect. Like, some of us do have to take sacrifices to pursue our passion, and this is one of the things that she did. Yeah. So
Once, how about your own passion? You never explain your own passion.
Yeah, I mean, my passion is developing youth and helping youth explore their interests, to further like find out where they want to go, help them, guide them, support their dreams. And I feel like while I want to do that, also there is that practical aspect, and I'm really very happy that this is the first episode to bring on both Thomas and Rachel, and even our own perspective, me and Ken, on this topic, because it is very important that while we continue pursuing what we love, we still are able to feed ourselves, and it's practical.
Yeah, I think we've all taken quite different journeys. I think we in the pre-call before this podcast, I think we were all sharing our own journeys, of how we got into the esports industry. And I think later on Rachel's going to share her story, which quite funnily enough, I think is quite the opposite of mine. So I think it's quite interesting to see how people weigh how important it is in pursuing your passion versus understanding that you need at the end of the day to put food on the table, and I think it'll be great to see all the different stories and to see how we have all somehow still ended up here, hopefully pursuing and still doing something that we love.
Yeah, I think without further ado, we can move on to the very first question, and that is, how would you guys define passion? And for me, passion is a fuel to pursue your life goals, right? Passion is a great enthusiasm for that, and it keeps you going. It's higher than interest. So like for me, gaming, music, dance, this kind of things, pop culture is an interest, but I feel that my passion is development of youth and how I can help them, reach one step higher towards their goals. So maybe you guys can define passion and what passion means to both of you. Maybe we can start with Thomas.
To me, passion is, to put simply, is something that gives you fulfillment and enjoyment to life. Like, you can have a 9-to-5 everyday kind of job which you have to grind through to put food on the table, but if there's something you're passionate about and like you succeed in your passion, it gives you more fulfillment to help you push through anything else. It's like I can get 100 marks on my math test, my English test and all that, but I would never feel happy about it until I win something in gaming, that's wherever my passion lies, then I'll feel super happy. It's something that fulfills me. It's like I realized that super recently too. It's weird because I know that y'all are gonna throw this question. So it's like I've been grinding through work for the past like 2 months because suddenly this period there was a lot of work that piled in and I just feel super drained. But then because recently I had a tournament and I did pretty well at it, suddenly I feel super recharged. It's the fulfillment aspect of things, like things which you feel you have a love towards and you do well at it. I think that's what gives you that drive in life. Yeah, that to me is a passion.
What about you, Rachel?
I would say it's more or less stuff that you guys have covered. I don't know if you guys have heard the commencement speech by Neil Gaiman. It's been novelized into like a tiny little book called Make Good Art. You should give it a read. Make Good Art is very, very nice. And it talks about like your passion being a mountain that you can see rising above everything else that you do and all of your other journeys, right? And I think like and it's something that you're drawn to, like despite what you're doing at the time, maybe you're not actively pursuing it, or maybe you're busy with other things that come up in life, you'll always be able to see it or feel it, and you'll always kind of feel like you want to go towards it. That's kind of like, to me, what passion is. It's just always going to be there, always visible and tangible to you.
Kenneth, I haven't heard from you, Kenneth.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, I think it's covered quite a lot already by everybody. I think passion is something you enjoy, but right, regardless of whether it's in work or it's a hobby or anywhere in life. I think when you have a passion for something, it hits different when you try and pursue it, and you're starting to chase that dream or that goal that you want to hit at the end of the day. I think for some people, passion is simply doing things that I love. For other people, probably for the more competitive players like Thomas, for example, passion is trying to hit world championships and things like this. So everybody has their own passion. I think today we want to discuss how feasible is it to put your life on passion. I think that's a question that I think a lot of youths nowadays are still trying to figure out. I think that balance between how do we pursue something that is meaningful and yet is still able to provide for our future. I think likewise for four of us here, maybe I can phrase it in a way that we have been lucky enough to be able to find practicality in our passion, but let's also face the reality that there are a lot of people out there that don't. At the end of the day, I think the stories of people burning out at work and things like this, a lot of it also has to do with the fact that you're not doing something that you enjoy and you're not doing something you love, and I guess that's where fulfillment from passion, I think like what Thomas mentioned, work can be 9 to 5, you can be busy, almost busy as hell, but at the end of the day, at the sidelines, chasing passion brings meaning to life. Yeah. And I also want to note, I'm reading Twitch chat, I see a lot of things, but I don't want to tub in and be disruptive. That's why I never answer.
Yeah,
but
Twitch
I see you.
Just saying
I see Chris and I see Jackie. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, right. While we just define what passion is, right, I think many of us, maybe for the youth, they haven't found their passion. How did you guys find your passion? Or how did you guys chance upon it? Was it by chance, or was it like, I don't know. I really don't know. Was it like since young, or I really have this inner calling, a voice spoke to me, I'm like, that's my calling, that kind of thing. And that's my passion.
I fell asleep and an angel came to me.
Is it safe to say that everybody here, I mean, I would assume at this point in time, has a passion for esports? Am I right? Like, yeah, I can't, I mean, if not, y'all won't be here. So, I think the fact of the matter is, personally for me is, I have been watching esports for a very long time. So it was quite natural for me, want to join the industry that I have been, admiring from afar, so-called. And it was a good chance that I managed to stumble upon. Then it's led to me being here, yeah. But I'm sure you guys will have different stories. Everybody has quite, I think, different entry points into the industry.
Mine was also something like yours. When I first started playing the game, and then I got introduced to the community aspect of things like the tournaments, and then I got even more into tournaments when I started watching StarCraft. Like I just watched the way they compete, and then how people behind cheer them on. The whole community aspect of things just seemed super cool. Then I wanted to devote myself to a game, so like I just practiced more. The game itself was super interesting, so all the little aspects of it. Then the more time I put into it, then the more I got into it. But it wasn't like I don't think it was a stumbled upon thing. Or maybe it kind of is because I stumbled upon the whole community aspect of things. But finding the passion, I think, for me, it's not just esports, right? Because
Yeah.
it went for esports, then now it's like YouTube as well.
Yep.
So I think there's a lot of, there are two things I would say. One is to try a lot of things, like go out and put yourself out there. Like there are a lot of random things which I've tried and like see whether I want to do or I want to make as well, but it turns out it's not something that you want to do in the long run. You don't see yourself doing it for like 4 to 5 years in a row consistently, then you probably don't have a passion for it because you'll just burn yourself out. But when, for example, the practicality aspect comes in when you're balancing time versus returns. So for example, in gaming, right, I would never really call myself a pro gamer, like to myself, because pro gamers to me means you can put food on your table with your earnings, right? So me, it was more like I can earn money from it, but it didn't mean that I can support myself, get a house, get a car, that kind of thing with my gaming money. So I would never call myself a pro gamer, more like semi-pro or competitive gamer. And then towards the end, right before NS, sort of like half a year before NS, I know it was coming to an end, and I was thinking whether I still want to put time for the last 6 months into the game, right? That's when I started to balance the passion and practicality thing. It was like the amount of time I was putting in wasn't giving me back the returns. I wasn't getting like top 3 consistently and stuff like that because I was going through like, number 1 was work, and then number 2 there was like some personal issues which kind of like faltered me a bit. So at that point in time, I decided, okay, I'm going to take a stop, and then I go to YouTube because it's another form of creative output. And then I found YouTube as my next kind of like passion that I like to focus on. So it's like, as much as there is trying different things, there's also, you need to understand your own strengths and weaknesses. That's the easiest thing. That's the simplest way I can put it to anyone who's, whether it comes to wanting to find a passion or whether it's wanting to know what job you want to do in the future or stuff like that. Understanding your strengths, passion, likes and dislikes is the easiest way to assess for yourself. For example, if I'm good at communicating to people, understanding people, and I'm not very good at numbers or whatever, right? Like I'm not good at maths.
Yep.
Then if you just balance it like that and you start to understand, maybe you're a good psychologist, right? Makes sense, right? So things like that, things like this is a good way for you to find out what you can do and cannot do in a long-term thing. Basically, you want to do something which you are decently good at, but yet it won't like burn you out. So that's the kind of way I assess the finding your passion kind of thing. But a lot of it is trying out different things. If you don't expose yourself to enough, don't talk to enough people, I think you will never get you'll never find out enough things in the world to find that one thing that you like. If that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. I think at the end of the day, it's at the exploration. You had your own exploration. You went out to venture and not just be in your own comfort zone, and that allowed you to find out what you really like and what you didn't like. So those are the things that maybe you as the viewers, you guys can learn. Like that if you haven't found your passion, then go and try new things. Maybe you realize you like talking, and then maybe try doing stand-up comedy or something like that. Yeah.
Actually, I want to add one point because I know the first game I tried to be competitive at was Dota 1. And then it was me, a couple of friends in secondary school, and obviously the Dota scene was already like happening back then. Like it was starting to go on the rise, and then we would play those clan wars against other schools and stuff like that. But then the difficulty was that we couldn't have all 5 people be at the same level of discipline, consistency, and devotion to the game. So eventually when I found StarCraft and it's a 1v1 game, it fit the limitations of me wanting to push the boundaries better.
Yeah.
So I could focus myself, I could find my own practice partners and everything I could do alone. But it comes with the pain of like, if you lose, then all the responsibility is on you. You don't share the burden with anyone, So that there's pros and cons, of course, but again, this is like assessing your strength and weakness, what's possible, what's not possible kind of thing. Yeah.
I think Kenneth can relate, right? Because Kenneth wanted to go into competitive Dota also, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'll share that story later. Maybe we hear from Rachel first. Because I think my story and Rachel's story has quite a good difference that I think I would like to further explore. Yeah.
I'm also interested to hear kind of story because I
Later,
haven't heard
later.
your story yet.
Later. You share your
And
story first.
you didn't tell me anything about it being like opposite to yours and everything.
As in, yeah lah, I leave it for the podcast, then it's interesting ma.
All these surprises. How did I realize esports was my passion? Well, I think first I was very passionate about games. I think most of us start with actually the game itself, the games themselves. My first game was Team Fortress 2, and unfortunately I think like Thomas and like many people who first start putting in hundreds of hours into a game, they're like, hey, maybe I'm quite good at this, maybe I want to go pro. And unfortunately, TF2 wasn't a game with a very healthy competitive scene. It was just like community tournaments, not much really. So that fell apart. Then I went into university and I picked up League of Legends. And I think then was just really like the focal point where like I started to learn more about the world. And I started to kind of find out that there's an industry around the esports part of games, and then I was kind of really just fascinated about like the kind of like Thomas said, the community that forms around watching people play the game at the highest level, and the kind of like fanaticism and the love and like the everything that comes out of it is just like became so amazing to me that I really wanted to be a part of that. I think that was really the start of like me legitimately wanting to be in esports and not just like a passing like hey maybe kind of thing. Yeah. And unfortunately, after I finished my university degree, I kind of needed to cover my student loans, and they were quite a sum, So I was like, maybe shouldn't go into esports yet because I know, it's not super stable and there are not a lot of high profile jobs, especially in Singapore. So I went to do a few other things. I went to fly, I did some other jobs as well. And then when I settled everything, then I found an opportunity in my current company, and then I took the leap. So that's how I got to where I am today.
Yeah, so maybe this is where I can share my story.
Yes.
I think just now you mentioned that after graduating, you realized you had loans to settle and whatnot, and you decided to take a more stable job, I guess. Like being a cabin crew and all this. For me, it was actually the opposite. I decided to give myself a year to join the esports industry. So after I graduated, loans aside, I decided that if in 1 year I wouldn't be able to join the industry in any capacity, because I think back then I was doing very, very simple stuff like freelance writing, for example, and it's all the entry level stuff that I wasn't even getting paid for, but I had to figure out a way to enter the industry, and cons of chasing your passion, if you will. And I ended up luckily in that year finding a job at my previous company, which was a startup. I don't know how many of you all know or have heard of that startup, but we don't talk about it anymore because it's a gone case. Yeah. But after that, I told myself that if in 1 year I didn't manage to join the esports industry, I would go on to do teaching, because that is, I think, at the end of the day where I saw myself ending up, I guess, as the more stable career-ish. But I think me knowing that the esports industry was still pretty young back then, and me also understanding that I didn't really have the contact or the network to join the industry, because I've been to a couple of events as an aspirational professional player back then, and I've seen how people are very close knit together, and it was very hard to break into the circle of esports back then, and I think it may or may not still be the same now. But I think that's the thing we'll cover in future topics. And yeah, luckily in that 1 year, I managed to find a job in esports. If not, I would have been might have been in NIE by now. So yeah, to me it's a risk that I wanted to take. So I guess opposite of yours, where you decided to settle down financially, where you can support yourself and things like this before moving on. For me, it was, if in 1 year I don't make it, then you know what, I gave myself a chance. Yeah.
It's very brave. For me, it was nowhere close to this. It was just like I love the game and now I play, and then I think my mom was the one who told me like, just treat it as a hobby. Like don't take it too seriously. But it's like, this hobby is gonna take up all my time. Like it's gonna be an epic ass hobby. Like the moment I come home, it's just like, okay, hobby time. You know, it's like.
But I think the thing for you is because you started during school time, right? So I guess there's still that kind of safety net in a sense.
It was at the time where esports wasn't big at all. Like people don't really know. It's not on the newspapers. It's not on TV. It's not what TI has. I mean, I account most of it to TI and League of Legends, where they blast up the prize pool so much that it broke into mainstream media, and then now our parents are forced to know about it. They're like, oh, okay, it's a thing. To, you know, like I'm around playing basketball, and then like some kids' parents actually ask me like, oh, like you play games, right? My kid wants to stream on Twitch. Is that viable? Like, do I need to be careful? That kind of stuff. And then I tell them what I think about Twitch and how it's beneficial in certain ways and all that. So I think it's very interesting that people are getting to know what gaming is and what possibilities there are. Where during our time there probably wasn't this kind of like knowledge for any of our parents, so it was much harder to convince them that you want to join into something like that. Yeah,
for sure. I think for me also, I had to live through quite a long period of unemployment because there wasn't any esports teams that were hiring, or I think without that safety rock of I'm still studying. If it doesn't work out while I'm still studying, I have my degree or my diploma. I can go and do whatever else. But being a fresh graduate with literally no connections in the industry, I must say that I got very, very lucky. Yeah, in finding a job.
I feel like esports might be a bit more open to people who are passionate, rather than having to need like a firm degree of whatever with how many years in the industry. So but it reminds me though, speaking of money, like when I first started pro gaming, when my mom was super against it, she actually just cut me off. Because I basically, my argument was that I can earn money playing games. So she said, okay lor, then you settle yourself.
Then you self-sustain.
Yeah, and then I just self-sustain since like the poly days. I just self-sustain all the way, and I kind of like, to the best of my abilities I just, every weekend it's online cups, win the like $50, $30 kind of thing, and then just tahan you through the week. So back then also got like sacrifices, but I think it was worth it. It was worth it.
That's the Asian parents' expectations, right? Like anything other than a lawyer and an engineer, you're a failure.
Doctor.
Doctor. It's, I think in our culture, it's definitely hard to convince. It's like you need to show them some evidence. It's really like the Asian culture, right?
Yeah.
You can't just tell them like can one or like got potential. You need to show them hard evidence. So like for me, it was like, okay, with my pocket money showing that I can earn money, or like me traveling around the world when they don't have to pay for it, that kind of thing. I think those things at the same time, while balancing my school studies to make sure I'm still like doing moderately well and all that, so that they don't have to worry too much, and everything balanced together is what allowed me to find time and convince them that to allow me to continue playing and all that. Yeah.
Rachel, did you have any like family expectations on you?
Yeah, I mean, like I would say like what Thomas experienced is also basically what my mom kind of like had reservations about, especially when I was in university. I was like super into it, and I was telling her, so, I want to do this in esports after I graduate. And had I, after university, I think gone into esports, made a decision to take the lead at the time, I think there would definitely be a lot of pushback. And one of the benefits of going kind of like a more roundabout route like I did is probably that your parents will have more time to get used to the idea. because when I did finally make the change, right, and it was also quite, I would say, a little bit it wasn't very meditated of me. I was at the point where I cleared my loans and I was like, okay, I quit first, I find a job later. So I did quit my as a cabin crew first before looking around for a job in esports, because I knew already that was what I wanted to do.
I think you just answered my question actually, because I wanted to ask you, like, did you manage to find a job in esports first before quitting, or no?
Because I think the danger flying as a cabin crew is that you get very used to the lifestyle, and many people who say they want to leave, they never leave. And that was kind of like something that I was afraid of also. So I was like, okay, I cut first. I cut the life first, I find my lifeboat later, kind of thing. And then I think I was also very lucky. Like Kenneth, I was super lucky. Without any connections, I was able to kind of find someone who would kind of give me a chance. And when I did move into esports, back to the question, my mom, she was kind of like over it already at that point, and I told her the same thing as I've always told her. It's like, yeah, I play a lot of games, I spend a lot of time online, but like, would you rather me like be like outside?
I think that's a lot of gamers.
A lot of gamers. Yeah. So it's it's really interesting to hear. You know, all of us have very different experiences, and if you're a youth, you probably can relate to at least one of us, I feel, or maybe not. But most of you guys probably quite relatable to this. And with that, I think we can conclude the first part of our podcast. This part is really just setting the context of what passion is, you know, the difficulties that we face and how we got into our passion. So we are going to move to this really fun segment right now, and it's called Play of the Day. Okay, so Play of the Day is a segment where we will test our guest esports pop quiz knowledge. And they already had a teaser of what it's going to be like. There will be a total of 5 questions. So, of course, first to 3. And the winner gets... Kenneth, what do they get?
Brownie points. Bragging rights.
Bragging rights.
Okay.
Yay.
Vouchers.
Podcast.
No skip vouchers.
A meal from once after phase 2 is over.
Okay. After phase 2, so 2021.
Hopefully not. Hopefully not.
Okay. So, so actually I give them a question the previous time we met. Basically, we asked what's the name of the group of CSGO players that has their players over the age of 60, and that was the... Anyone remember?
Silver Snipers.
Yes!
And not bad.
But no points for you, that's just good job.
I was busy reading chat and then it's like...
Not counted. Haven't started.
No count.
So you're just say me, and then I'll ask you I'll give you multiple choice question, then you'll just say me if you all know the answer, okay? So the first question relates to that Silver Snipers. So what is the age of the oldest Silver Sniper player on the roster?
No googling. I can see hands out.
A,
no typing.
68, B, 73, or C, 77?
Me.
Okay, Thomas.
73.
No, it's not.
Me,
Rachel,
83.
yes. Sorry?
83?
There wasn't 83.
Oh, fuck!
68 and 77.
Wait, repeat. I want...
Okay,
63, 77, or 78?
68,
73, 77, 63.
No,
No.
wrong.
68?
Yeah, okay.
73, or 77?
Oh, 77.
Yes, that is correct.
1-0.
How does he even react?
Yeah, if you think about it, 77 to still be playing esports is crazy, yeah.
It's crazy, but yeah. And his fun fact, his name is Windy, like got air, you know, Windy, right?
Yeah.
And the entire team is actually sponsored by Lenovo, and they are from Sweden. So they won a seniors cup, a senior CSGO cup apparently. Yeah, that's quite interesting. So yeah, and first point goes to Rachel. All right.
It's
How much
Sweden.
competition? How much competition do you have in a senior CS:GO Cup?
No, the thing
don't know, I didn't
is,
check.
Sweden's government is so active in supporting
yes.
esports. They are
yeah.
so it's probably the number 1 or number 2 country behind Korea, maybe to like for their
The
industry in
system, right?
esports. Yeah,
Yeah.
like how much they invest.
sure.
It's crazy. I love Sweden, man.
Okay, so now the second question is related to Dota. I think this one, Thomas, you should get correct.
Okay,
Oh no,
I try my best. I
just
try my best.
Then,
at a terrible disadvantage.
what is the prize pool for TI9?
I don't know. I don't
Are
know.
we
Fun
going-
fact,
Can
TI9 is
we
the
round
previous one, right?
down?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
that's the previous
it's
one,
round
yeah.
down. I'll give you multiple choice questions again.
Okay.
So TI9 holds the record for the biggest prize pool in esports. So is it A, 34 million? Is it B, 36 million? Or is it C, 32 million? It's not in ascending order. I moved everything.
Why are they so close? Once you're so evil.
I think there's a 4 in there, so I'm gonna say 34 million.
Yes, that's
It's
correct.
correct. Yeah.
Hey,
So-
1-1.
The winners of the previous TI is OG, and they won a total of 16 million. Each player got
Insane.
about 3.1 million from that.
Insane.
That's crazy. That is crazy stuff. Okay, so
I
it's
mean-
1-1, guys. 1-1. Okay, it's even now. Question number 3: which gamer has 2 Guinness World Record and is the star of his own comic/manga/manhwa? The reason why I put this because there's a Japanese, there's a Korean, and there's a American in this multiple choice question. Okay, so the first option is A, Umehara Daigo.
There's a
B?
Street Fighter player, by the way. Just fun facts for
Yeah.
you guys.
Street Fighter player. B, Faker, League of Legends player. And C, Shroud, ex CSGO pro.
I gotta immediately answer here and say Faker.
You're wrong.
I would definitely guess.
Can I guess
Yes.
Daigo?
Yes, that's right.
So
So the record that he held, the Guinness World Record that he held was for the most viewed fighting game moment, which was Evo Moment 37, where he did the Daigo parry. And he holds the most consecutive tournament wins. 15 consecutive tournament wins.
But that's just for Street Fighter lah.
Yes. Yeah, just for Street Fighter.
Because I'm sure StarCraft someone has more than 15 consecutive wins.
Yeah, so that's like crazy stuff, right?
Yeah.
And he has his own manga, basically.
I never knew that though. That's
what's the manga called? Do you
yeah,
know?
what's this manga?
The manga is called Umehara Fighting Gamers, and it is a dramatized depiction of his life in the arcade scene, competitive life in the arcade scene. It has
The
6 volumes at the
The
moment.
funny thing is, one of my best friends, his surname is Yumehara as well. It's Yumehara KG, and it's like it's funny because he will never be the top search person on the internet because Yumehara Daigo will always.
Have to fight with him for the SEO.
Oh
Thomas,
my
I think yours will forever be the top search.
Yeah.
God, my surname
Kopankiewicz.
is unique lah. My
Yeah,
surname-
your last
in
name
there
is
already.
confirm is the top search.
my aim is if I'm the top Thomas K search, that will be something else lah.
Okay, so that's 2-1, Rachel 2, and Thomas 1. Right now, question number 4. Which luxury brand was the partner of the 2019 League of Legends World Championships? Is it A, Chanel, B, LV, or C, Gucci?
Gucci.
No, man,
LV.
Thomas.
No?
Wrong.
No, it's not Gucci.
You know why? Gucci
Fnatic.
recently just sponsored Fnatic, so I
Yeah.
thought
Oh, yeah, it was
Yeah,
released.
Sick though.
What about you,
Very good.
Rachel?
LV?
Yes, it's
I watched
LV.
the finals. All
I
my
don't-
It's the
Oh,
trophy
man.
case. The trophy case.
sorry, I've never watched any League of Legends finals or any full competition.
They're quite spectacular. Sure
They
watch.
are.
I'm like faithful to Dota.
You don't know anything about the game, you can still
When-
enjoy the
When
performance.
Phoenix Pen left and went to do what League of Legends, I'm just like, no.
Okay, you know what? Rachel won this, but I want to throw out the last question, and maybe Thomas can get this right. Okay,
Winner
'Cause it's
take all.
yeah. Base of esportsearning.com. Who is the second Singaporean player that has the highest earnings from tournaments?
Again, Singapore. You're not saying the top.
Kopankiewicz.
Not the top, because the
Yeah.
top is ice. I'm just, it's too easy for you guys already. You guys will know. So,
Okay.
Second is Thomas K.
so A, is it Chowie from he played League of Legends, or B, is it Xian, Street Fighter Xian, or is it C, Nuts, Dota Nuts?
Nuts is still playing, so he's still earning.
But so is Sian.
Xian is
But
also
so is
playing,
Xian
but,
Choice.
but it's Street Fighter lah. So
Yeah. So who wanna answer this?
I am gonna go with Nuts.
I'm going to
Yes,
go with Chowie, even though he's not playing anymore.
Nuts.
Yes, Nuts is the answer.
Oh my god.
So yes, Nuts is still playing. He's currently in Reality Rift, and his highest tournament earning came in 2015 when he was with MVP Phoenix, 7 to 8th placing in TI back then.
You just can't fight Dota prize pools. That's no
Yeah,
way.
Dota prize
You can't fight Dota prize pools. Yeah.
Yeah, and with that, I think we've come to the end of Player of the Day.
Wait, fun fact. I just
Oh.
want to boast that I used to be in the same team as Nuts. Just throwing it out
For
there.
what?
Cool.
We
For
used
Dota
to
lah.
be in Team Flash together. As in, I was StarCraft and then he was Dota lah, but yeah, fun facts. So we go way back.
Wow.
That's it. That's
Okay.
all my thing I got. I know famous people, full stop.
All right, so let's end this segment. Okay, so now we have come to the second part of our podcast, and there's a reason why I wanted to end with that question, and that's because the second part we will be tackling this question: is it practical to enter esports, the esports industry, the local esports industry, in your opinion? This can be answered from a point of view of a competitive player or the peripherals. And the reason why I said I wanted to end on that question was because esports has been glamorized by a lot of people, and people will look at things such as these earnings. Youths will be looking at this and telling their parents like, hey mom, I'm gonna earn this amount. Look at this guy, he earns this amount. Look at people like, I don't know, Faker or all this, they're winning a lot of things. Look at the entire of OG. They right now, most of them has like 5 million from earning tournaments, right? Tournament earnings. And these are things that kind of puts a blind on youth's passion. Like they're blindly following their passion without having that practical aspect. And as such, the question posing to both of you would be as such, do you think it's practical to enter the local esports scene? I can see Thomas shaking his head.
Yeah, I already see.
Wants to go first? I've always spoken first, so Rachel, I think you can start.
Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
Are you? I want to clarify. Are you talking about the local esports scene
Or
Yes.
esports in general.
I think
specifically?
maybe we'll talk about locally, because that's the most direct, right? Like how likely are youths gonna be able to
Because
go
they
with-
have to start here, lah, right?
yeah.
Start here
Yeah,
then
okay,
go
sure.
as well.
Yeah, that works as well.
Mm.
I think, like you mentioned, there's very distinct glorification of specific roles in esports. You have the gamers, you have the players themselves, you have the coaches, managers, maybe even hosts, commentators. They are extremely in the limelight. They probably earn a lot of money, and they are what many people want to be, But if you're talking about esports as a whole, the industry is comprised of so many support roles, so many roles which are like essential to the industry and hold up the industry. Stuff like tournament organizers, stuff like analytics, business teams, PR like me, like communications teams, and these are all roles which are extremely transferable from other industries. So I would say it's practical if you're looking to go into esports and you are really not like hyper focused on being one of those ultra popular, ultra up there, ultra visible roles, and I would even go so far to say that there's a very safe way to go about doing it, in the sense that if you're trying to go into one of these roles, there are a lot of industries you can come in from. Let's say you're a journalist, standard journalism, maybe a sports journalist, for a website. You can definitely go into esports eventually, because that's a transferable skill. I would also want to tell people to like not give up, because if you're not in esports right now, and I know it's like hard and sometimes it's difficult to see how you might be able to penetrate the industry, don't discount the kind of skills that you're honing right now in whatever you're doing. Don't think that the time that you're spending in your current job or in your current education track is wasted because you're not doing esports actively. You can always come in from other places, and there are a lot of very fulfilling roles in the industry that are coming up, especially now, because like a lot of companies even are coming up with esports divisions, and they want people who understand, who are from the community. So opportunities are there. If you can see them, you can look for them. Yeah, so that's my take.
We'll be covering that in future podcast episode about opportunities in esports. Yeah, but as you said, there's a lot of ways to make it practical, and learning all these skills, transferable skills, is just one way to go about it.
Yeah, I agree. So I feel like if you're looking at the more stable side of things but less glorified, so people don't usually hear about this, you need to understand that esports is not just like playing games. It's a business. It's absolutely a business first. So how the money circulates around and why esports is even possible is because of the money and the business side of things. So if there is a business, there's going to be everything related to business. There's going to be the marketing team, PR team, and then if we move more into the sports sides, there's the casters, the hosts, the people behind the cameras who make who kind of broadcast for the tournament. All these kind of things have nothing to do with gaming almost. You don't need to know you need to know minimal about games and you can enter the market. So that's the kind of like the more stable side of things. But at the same time, I'm not sure, maybe Rachel might you can give a nod if I'm correct. I feel like if I am to do marketing for an esports team compared to marketing for a marketing agency, I probably earn more at a marketing agency, right? Yeah. So unless if you're with the big brands like Razer or something like that, then probably you can match. But that's the thing. It's like passion versus practicality. My answer is always no. My answer is always it's not as practical as you think it is joining esports, but it's much a passion thing. That's why people go into it, because you feel much more fulfilled than having like $1,000 more in your bank account at the end of every month. You feel way better earning 1,000 less by doing something you love than something that you don't really enjoy. So that's why passion to me is very important. But the other reason why I say no is because I heard this one phrase when I was kind of getting into StarCraft for the first time. The person said they were, I'm not sure, I think it was In Control who said this. If you know who he is, then you know he's a big figure in esports. He was asked whether he would allow his son to go into gaming, and he straight up said no. And then it's either him or Huck. I forgot who said it. But anyway, the reason why he said it was because gaming and professional gaming is super, super difficult. And if I tell the kid no, and he still wants to push himself hard at it, and he'll put even more like passion, even more dedication into the game, and prove to me that he can do it, that's the only kind of character that's gonna make it. It's not like I play online and I'm super good and I'm global elite. Suddenly you can be in a pro team and win. It doesn't work that way. The kind of things that require from you to win a championship is different from just being good at a game. Like the practice and like even the mental challenges, all that kind of thing. It requires a different kind of. It requires you to practice, not just play a game. So
I think it's the same story that you shared to us, right? About you know, having to submit assignments early and like certain sacrifices. I mean, they may not be the same as everybody will have different sacrifices naturally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think wow, that quote, that thing you mentioned really, wow.
Yeah, like, so if people don't know, this story basically was during my poly days, I basically would have to request from the teacher that I submit my essays, like exam essays, like 2 weeks earlier than the rest, so that I can go overseas to compete. Like, those are the sacrifices I would have to make. And is it practical? If you're not the top 10%, not even that, if you're not the top 5%, you're probably not going to earn jack shit. You're probably better off using your 9 to 5 to go and work a part-time job and earn money off of it so that you can focus it somewhere else. Like, it's really a time versus returns kind of thing. If you want to keep it as a hobby, you can keep it as a hobby. But like, for example, recently, I had this tournament. I only had 1 week to practice. But even practicing through this 1 week, I can make top 8. But imagine there are people who have been practicing this whole time. I don't want to like put them down, but since we're on this topic, right? If you've been practicing for months and you come in here to play like 2 weekends worth of qualifiers and you don't make it, how much time has been like spent or wasted if you're trying to take this seriously? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just gotta keep yourself in check. It's a harsh reality, but if you're spending less time than me practicing, first of all, you're probably practicing wrong.
Not enough.
Second of all, you're probably not cut out to be to go competitive or to go pro. So those are the kind of thing you need to keep yourself in check before just blindly going into it and saying like, oh, I want to be a pro gamer. Like, it doesn't work that way. You know, there's a lot of fundamentals and a lot of things you need to check yourself. You can't just like, I like basketball, so I become an NBA player. Like, that's not how it works, right? You really need to be of a certain standard and a certain discipline for you to go into it. But yeah, with that being said, there's a lot in the industry that has opportunities for you to go into esports. And I was looking at the chat a lot and people are talking about, not enough tournaments and stuff like that. Locally, it's true. There's not enough tournaments for a lot of specific games. But at the same time, someone said like there's no centralized like esports organization there. Actually are a few up and coming ones which want to create a circuit. I think SEA Games was a very good showing that there is a potential. We can't look at just Singapore alone. If you want to look at going pro, for example, for example, StarCraft, nothing in Singapore at all.
Yeah.
But I have a better chance earning money with StarCraft than Dota in our regional market, because I can almost consistently place top 8, and that gets me a certain amount of money. So like stuff like this, there's always regional competition. Southeast Asia is too small for us to just look at Singapore, so a lot of regional tournaments pop up. So you can't just be the top in Singapore, you need to be like top 3 in Southeast Asia, that kind of thing. So you need to push your boundaries. Locally speaking, not practical. Regionally speaking, much better. Globally speaking, even better. So you need to see where you can push yourself up to. But going back to SEA Games, basically Razer pushed for this amongst the Sports Council, and they put in a lot of money to make this happen. I think the viewership is good, and it's basically trying to extend the broadcasting audience to like the youths, and the kind of like the change in the shift in the viewership for sports, right? Sports, because esports is not a sport, I say first. And then so with that, then moving into the number of tournaments kind of thing locally, they are trying to push for more and more bigger tournaments, whether it's regional or locally, to build a scene. It's not been announced yet, and it sucks because COVID has put a delay on a lot of things. So because I got some insider info so I know for sure that there was supposed to be 2 gigantic tournaments this year for multiple games, but it didn't happen because COVID delayed everything. Okay, but more opportunities I think is coming, as much as the way has been paved like years ago by a lot of us, but the way is still, esports is still a growing industry, as weird as it sounds. It's not even fully established yet in a perfect kind of like fundamental.
I think the way that people have been saying the esports industry, how it has grown from what it used to be 10 years ago to what it is now, right? Where we are looking at big prize pools compared to, you guys used to play for probably like $100-$200, that kind of thing. I think, in my own opinion, and I have been so-called, letting people know that people that are not in the esports industry, they ask you like, how is it like there? I would still say we are still at our infancy stage, to be honest. Yes, the pioneer, the pioneer generation definitely has paved the way, and there has been a lot of hardships that we suffered to make esports what it is now. But to be honest, I still feel the local industry now, we we're not even close to even being a mature enough industry such that you can fight with the giants like IT and business and marketing and all this kind of stuff.
I mean, especially
I still
Singapore.
think we're
If
still
you
think we're
compare
very, very
Singapore
young.
to even like countries like Korea or Sweden, where they hold like regular tournaments even to community and stuff like that, like that doesn't happen here. It's just like it's only the big stuff. It's only the stuff which you gather an audience, make your sponsors wet and all that kind of thing. So like so I hope.
But I think continue with this.
I hope more people do like smaller tournaments and like event, like just to build the image of esports and the competitive side behind gaming. I think that's something, but obviously I think that requires a lot of know-how from the business side of things. So as much as, for example, someone like I would want to put in money to host tournaments and all that, I also need to understand the business side of things to how to make that a bit more sustainable. Stuff like
Definitely
that.
that's one topic I believe is going to be covered in our future podcast, because this is more of like actual on-ground events, competitions, the entire framework of the esports industry and what is lacking, that kind of thing. So but I still want to touch back on what you said, about your that quote, where the guy told his kid no. And I mean, to go into competitive, it takes that extra character, it takes that extra willpower to push through all the barriers, that's stopping you, to make it possible. And even if that's so it's just not everybody is gonna be the next Shroud, for example, or the next Faker, for example. Because I mean, there's this concept where it's about this, out of one success there's 1 million failures. So everyone needs to recognize that, and if their area is not there, then what else can we do about it? And that's the practical side, which
I mean, I think, to be honest, as much as you all are sharing, about how hard it is to be a professional gamer, to make it to make professional gaming as a career, I think what Rachel mentioned earlier, where there are so many other opportunities in esports out there, that you don't have to so-called sacrifice unless it's about money and whatnot. But there are other marketable skill sets that you can have going into the industry. It's like the same with any industry, right? If you go into IT, you need lawyers, you need your marketers, you need people to handle your operations, things like this. And I think the problem is, I don't know whether you all agree with me. I think all of us roughly, we are of the same generation. I tend to find that there hasn't been, because of how esports was when we were younger, and the awareness of the industry not being as readily accessible as it is now. I think we grew up with a lot of that sort of mentality where it's either you're a professional gamer or you're screwed. But I think nowadays there's been a lot more resources coming in to educate us about, educate the youth rather, about how much there is to do outside of professional gaming. And I think, likewise, we see games and mainstream support kind of going up in acceptance of esports. I think the thing is, the youth need to understand, and I think that the education portion of things will play a very vital role in the future, for the future generation of esports folks, in really understanding and growing the entire industry to a point where we can become mainstream and sustainable as the big giants out there. I personally feel that the lack of awareness and education has played a very big part, for at least for myself in understanding what could I have done in the industry if I didn't make it as a professional Dota player. To me, is I was screwed. There was no way for me to go in, until I found certain job openings and and I was self-educated. And I think that lack of education has caused the lack of growth as much as it could have been, the potential to grow for our industry in the past 5-10 years, maybe even.
Yeah, I mean, now the question is very different. Last time it was like pro gamer or nothing almost, but now it's like I like Mr. JQ1 in chat. He just said, like, the question is, when people say they want to be part of the esports industry, what do they want? Competitive gamer question mark or back end question mark? So it's very different. If you want to be a competitive gamer, there's lots of lots of things I can tell you whether you can make the cut or not, and then there's the back end, which is much easily achievable. How you wanna who do you want to interact? What fulfills you within this passion, right? Do you want to interact with fans? Then there's like community managers. Do you want to interact marketing, like sponsorships, this kind of stuff? So you work with teams more. There's that kind of stuff. And then there's also the other side of like Twitch streaming, organizing tournaments, all this kind of thing. So there's a lot of aspects to esports. Okay, like Twitch streaming, I wouldn't so much call it esports, but okay, it's still part of gaming, I guess.
Yep,
so
for sure.
Yeah, it depends which side you wanna be. And since he asked again, hi, SEA Games again next year. Yes, I think there's SEA Games again next year. If COVID doesn't delay any further, there will be, and there will be esports. I can tell you now.
Ken, I think that's a very good wrap up for this segment already. We've tackled, so if you guys are joining us, we already tackled the definition of passion, and then after that we went through the practicalities of pursuing esports and what our guests went through, and these are lessons and these are things that you guys can pick up. So right now we will move on to our final segment of the day called Chatbox. So for those of you that are tuning in, I believe that you guys have a few questions that you want to ask our guests. And yeah, Kenneth, maybe you want to throw the questions in.
Yeah.
Wow.
So a few questions. I think we are already overshotting the time, but let's try and keep things short and sweet. So a couple of questions. One is from Chris. Who is everybody's role model outside or inside of esports / gaming? For both of you.
Gaming, thing.
Rachel,
I have many answers actually. That's weird. Can I only give one or can I give a few?
Can give a few lah.
If you want to talk about like maybe the first, for me in esports, the first would be Shocks.
The host stress.
Yeah, she's
is that the right way to say it? I guess that sounds weird.
the host for,
I think that's right.
Hostess.
Yeah, she used to be the
Hostess.
host for LEC, but now I think she's freelance, which is like even more role model-y. It's like, yes, she really made it. I think she's the epitome of really someone who brings a lot to the industry, and her journey is also something that like I unwittingly echoed also, because she did come from another industry as well. Like she has a master's in journalism and history, and she was a journalist and a pageant queen before she joined esports. So she
I didn't know that.
very
Wow.
the skills that she learned, and then she brought it and enhanced like League of Legends for the better, which is like mind blowing. That's very cool for me. She was the first, I wouldn't say. After that,
Mr. JQ, I also have a photo with her. Yes, I do.
you
From
guys,
her old dream
I'm
hack.
so
You took a photo with her?
Yeah.
everyone with photos of Shocks and them together, I'm very jealous. One day.
You need to fly down to one of those dream hacks or something, man.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay, for me, okay, we'll just stick with esports, right? Not outside of esports. My first one that really got me wanting to play competitive was this guy called Huck, HUK. So he used to be the first StarCraft 2 pro gamer that I always watched and I just followed. And eventually I met him at a tournament where we had to play against, like, in the same bracket lah. And then we became good friends. That was like, it was so crazy. It's like when you grow up watching some guy that you admire so much, and then eventually you meet him, and then you're like friends. You know what I mean? Like,
It's like
that
Joseph
was
Schooling meeting Michael Phelps.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's such a cool dude and all that. But I think overall in esports, who would be my role model, and again, I also became friends with him, is a guy named Grubby. So he used to be Warcraft 3 legend, and then he went into StarCraft, and then now he's more like an icon, like an esports icon. He works a lot with Blizzard to promote things here and there, and promote other esports stuff here and there in his streams. Yeah, he taught me all I knew about, like, he brought my gaming to the next level. He taught me how to practice. He taught me how to, like, he actually sent me a book right before my tournament about, it's called Mind Gym. I still have it. It's about how to focus and how to train your mental abilities to go into tournament settings and all that. Like, this guy knows everything behind the science, and like the amount of effort he puts in is crazy different. And now that he's moved into a more icon figure, he supports the scene very differently, but still so much. I think he's been really cool for the esports scene.
Yeah,
Actually, wait, Kenneth, who's your role model? I'm quite curious about yours.
2 role models.
You don't put me on the spot like this, If I don't say Jackie, then he's gonna come after me. No, I mean, but honestly, I think Jackie is one big one. If we're talking about purely esports, I mean, he's the first. He was. Those of you who don't know, I work under him. At Spout. Oh no, brought out the forbidden name. I think he taught me a lot with regards to events and stuff. So I don't want to blow his ego already, because he confirm after this the head explode already, too big already. So let's just leave it at that. When's that?
Wow, esports, is it?
Wait, this is different from the Jackie I know, right, Rachel?
This is the Jackie, you know.
It's the Jackie. Oh, okay.
It's the same. That's why you see, you cannot talk too much about him already.
Jackie also used to be from Team Resurgence, which I used to be on, and Rachel is still on, right? Yeah. So that's why I asked. Okay. Please move on.
Yeah, let's move on to the next question.
Hey, what? Don't dodge.
Oh, JQ is Jackie. Oh my god.
Yeah, JQ is Jackie.
Okay. Right.
Oh, I don't have an answer. Esports. Yeah. For just gaming wise, I don't think I have a role model. I think closest is you, Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Oi.
Okay, so I think from my standpoint was this, right? I was in law because it was practical. And of course, I thought I would be a lawyer, right? Because I thought I can argue, but I'm not very good at arguing. So in the end, that didn't turn out well. No. And then after that, like, we were classmates.
I can hear
Like,
the spite in Kenneth's voice.
Thomas and I were in the same class. And then after that, he had the guts to like just like quit poly halfway and join a new poly the next year. I'm like, I wouldn't do that. Like, wow, who has the guts to do that? And after that, 2 years down the road, before he entered army, he started doing vlogs. And I was like, wow, this guy is really doing everything, you know. And to me, it's a very good. For me, I really believe in passion. I as much as, you know, need to be practical and stuff, I really like this kind of sense of satisfaction and fulfillment, and that's something I crave for more than monetary. So I don't really think that I will be like super rich one day, right? But as long as I have enough to survive, that's good enough, you know. As long as I'm able to help people around, and to me, those were qualities that I thought was a good role model for youth to follow, because it's not enough dreaming about it. You have to take action. And Thomas took action.
And I can see the heart around
where
Thomas,
he is.
the face coming out.
He is where he is now because he took action, you get what I mean? And that's why I thought that he was perfect for the first episode of Passion versus Practicality, because that is passion and there is practicality there. And that's also why I told Rachel why I wanted her on the first episode, because you have a stable income and you pursue your passion and you slice it into more than half, I don't know. But
more than half.
More than half, right? And I mean, being a cabin crew, you have a comfortable life. The only tough part is when you fly and then you get lonely when you're overseas and stuff like that. But you still have that cash, you know. You come back with cash and you fly everywhere, you know.
Actually, can I just like stop you there? And I want to go back.
She doesn't get lonely overseas.
I want to go back to something that Thomas said, that it's true that if you're, let's say, an accountant in esports versus an accountant in any other industry, you would earn a lot less. And this is definitely true, for sure. Any role, because of how young our industry is. But it's like, I think coming from a job whereby I had a very strong financial security and a very straightforward job. I almost say easy, it's not easy, but it's straightforward. Straightforward job, good money, but like literally not really, no fulfillment. I can say that as long as you're able to fulfill your basic financial needs. Like as long as you earn a minimum, and that minimum is different for everyone, I would say it's much better to pursue something that you love or something that you enjoy or can find meaning in. Because like when I was flying, I did do well in my job and I did earn a lot of money, but it's not sustainable long term for many people. I think not everyone can chase money so single-mindedly that they ignore like, you know, your spiritual fulfillment from like doing something that you love. So I think for most people, like as long as you can find something that's stable in esports, and that's not as difficult as like, let's say, being something like Thomas, which is very few people can do what Thomas did. But to do what I do, I think that's a lot more reachable. And granted, you won't earn as much, but I would say it's a better trade-off than a lot of people think.
Yeah, once again, I see
yeah.
this question pop up. It's like Chrissy Ronaldo in the chat says like, I think that's the biggest problem of gaming and esports scene in Singapore. Because of how attractive it sounds, people are willing to take a huge pay hit to pursue their passion. Like, yeah, you still have to set yourself straight. Like, is this what you want to do for a long time? And is it really passion? Like, it's not just like gaming, you know, it's still work. So you need to understand that part and not just blindly jump into it. That's why, again, it's my point of like, is it practical? I would always tell the person no. And after hearing no, if you still want to pursue it, and after I tell you how difficult it is and how much sacrifice you put in, and you still want to pursue it, then you're in the right industry. Then I know that you're cut out for esports. Because if you think it's a walk in the park, it's not. It's harder than any other industry out there, or you know, equally hard as any other industry out there. So yeah.
I mean, I wanted to bring this up, but I think we're running out of time. But I mean, I once heard a quote, you know, don't pursue your first passion, because if you turn it into work, eventually you're going to lose passion for that passion, you know, that kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering whether you guys kind of agree or disagree with that.
Nah, I totally disagree. I think because even if it's your first passion, the moment you start putting work in is when you start to realize if you like it or not. And if you start to see that you can continue this dedication towards the craft, then it's real. But if you put in hard work and after like 2 months of you not seeing a return and you give up, then that's just you like having a crush and you don't really love the person. It's the same kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Commitment.
Yeah, it's like for YouTube, for example, I didn't see when I started working on my own vlogs, which Wenceslus mentioned, like I didn't earn any money. I invested in a camera, I paid money for a camera, I paid money for this, that, and I didn't see any return in money until 1 year, like maybe like 8 months to a year later. Then I start earning some money back. But then after that, it was like, then I started earning more and stuff like that. But yeah, if I didn't tahan through that 1 year, then all the effort would have been for nothing at all. So this consistency thing, people always see success so quick on the internet that they don't understand the kind of sacrifice you need to put into it. Some people are hella lucky. 1 month in, boom, 100k subs. Yo, hella lucky. Not everyone is like that. Some people you got to put in the learning process and all that, and only after 2-3 years do you get to the point where you need to be. Like, if I were to give just one more example, because I'm rambling a bit already, like Casey Neistat seems like a huge YouTuber, but honestly, he did 5 years of TV first, and then another 1.5 years of YouTube before he started getting famous on YouTube. But when people first watch his channel, you just think, oh, his daily vlogs, like within a month he was famous already. It's not, because if you go and look at his history, he has a whole track record of being in media and then being on YouTube for quite a long time, making like single videos, and then he got good. So all this kind of stuff, people don't see behind the scenes. They're blinded because media glorifies everything, right?
Yeah.
It's all about the highlights of life. But when you actually get into it and then you put in the work, that's when you can decipher or not whether you really love this passion or you should move on to your next passion. Next passion.
Inspirational. I got some life things to consider. I think let's not keep Richard and Thomas longer anymore.
Yep.
I think maybe just to
I want to talk more.
Sure. Go on.
I want to get my last ranked match for Valorant, okay?
I mean, maybe just to end off the entire episode, maybe both of y'all can leave maybe 1 or 2 sentences of advice for people that are really looking to enter the industry.
my advice is esports then boring. You want to join for what? Don't join lah. That's it.
Point in that a lot of it is a lot of tedious work. But I think if you're in the work industry and the work is for a good cause, it makes it that much easier. It really does. Yeah, it's hard work for sure. But like, would you rather be doing something like working hard for something that you love or like believe in? Not love is maybe a strong word, but like something you believe in versus like working hard for nothing that you believe in. You know, I think the choice is quite easy.
You could do a boring 9 to 5 lah, or you could do something
could do a
that
boring
you
9 to 5.
essentially love.
Yeah.
Not to say 9 to 5s are boring lah.
Oh,
Still
yeah, I mean,
fulfillment which comes out of it, but just that the
Yeah,
output
totally.
in different areas. The output might be to your family instead of yourself. You know. Yeah.
This is true.
Yeah.
Everyone comes from a different situation as well.
For sure.
Exactly.
I think that's a very good wrap up for this entire podcast. Thank you both for agreeing to come on this podcast. I really appreciate it to kick off this whole series. So
I just realized if someone clipped that exact moment I gave the advice, right, and gave no context whatsoever, that would be a sucky clip for it to circulate around.
But it's also, semi-motivational. You never know.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, thanks for having us on. This was
thank
was
you,
fun.
guys.
It was a good talk, and hopefully we'll be on for future ones as well.
Yes.
Yeah, it was great. Fun.
Okay, thank you guys.
Thank you guys. Say bye bye.
See you.
Bye.
Guys.
Yeah.
Give me a
Sorry, are we back?
Oh,
Cheers.
yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, so I was saying, thank you guys for joining us for the past 1 hour. There was a lot of things that was covered during this episode of the podcast, and it is really very insightful. And I hope that you guys brought back lessons. For me personally, I really like that quote about if you really want it, right? Even if someone tells you no, you'll still really go and fight for it, because that's the additional drive for you. It can be in any areas, not just esports, and it's very relatable. These life lessons that our speakers talked about, our guests talked about, is something that is not just for esports. I feel. Yeah. What do you want to say? Anything to the viewers?
To be honest, I think Thomas and Rachel's stories have re-motivated me. To be really honest,
spark the fire again.
Yeah, I think I shared the whole thing about work and not chasing your first passion, because I think at the end of the day, doing any job is not easy.
Yes.
And it's very sad to see people that have lost passion for esports, or even for anything else, just because it's not what they turn out. It's not what the job and the dream that was sold to them turned out to.
Yep.
And it's very sad to see that people that have lost that kind of fire and stuff like this. So I mean, I think if you guys are really looking to enter the industry, and I've seen some people in the chat saying like, people that I don't know how to enter and stuff like this, stay tuned. I mean, moving forward, we will definitely be bringing on more guests for this kind of stuff, to give you guys advice on how to enter. But personally for me, it's sometimes be lucky and sometimes put in the hard work. Yeah, and it's really hard to get lucky when you don't put in the hard work. So I think like what Jackie mentioned, go out there, go and do your networking, go to events. I mean, guaranteed like COVID and whatnot, but go to events, go and meet new people. When you show up at the event over and over and over again, and people recognize you and your face, I think eventually it will make a difference if you're really trying to enter the industry. Yeah.
So once again, I think we've come to the end of our podcast for Point of View. Thank you guys for joining us for this episode. If you're interested to find out more and listen into more point of views, no pun is intended.
Wait, I got air horn.
Then join us every last Friday of the month from now until next month and following months. Every 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. on Twitch. Our next podcast will be talking about the various gaming platforms and the longevity of competitive game titles. So with that, we will catch you guys on the 24th of July.
See you guys.
See you guys. Bye bye.